Hello, welcome to the next
Hello.
episode of the Business Brew podcast from BUSINESSiQ. Our very special guest today, Zoe Lewis, Principal and Chief Executive of Middlesbrough College. Hi Zoe, how are you doing?
Hi, Mike. I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Very good, yes, we're all in
Yes.
fine fettle here.
Yeah, that's good to hear.
Good, let's catch up on a few things. I think
Yeah.
we've obviously done a lot of stories about Middlesbrough College, but maybe you and I haven't caught up for a little bit of a time. Just sum up a few of the more recent achievements and how things are going there. It seems to be a very busy place as ever.
There's always things going on. I mean, we have 12,000 students in every sector of the economy, so there's going to be things going on that are pertinent to this region all of the time. We've recently got an award for our career service, which is a national award, a Beacon Award, so we're really, really proud of that. We've been inspected by Ofsted, and we've got 6 outstanding judgments around adults, apprenticeships, personal development, which is fantastic to see. And our STEM investment that we started about 10 years ago is continuing. We've got digital centre that's thriving. We've got TT joining us on campus this summer. There's just a few things that's been going on, and there's always something new.
Because I think you're in your 11th year now there, I think, aren't you?
So as principal, I am, yes, my 11th year. Yeah.
So I presume that must take you back to the actual building of the college.
Well, yeah, I started as vice principal when we were on the 4 former sites, actually. And I started as vice principal to build the college and sell off the old sites for housing, because Middlesbrough at the time had very little family housing. And this was a brownfield site full of warehouses, as we can remember, where Teesside was born 150 years ago or whatever. So it was a big strategy that was before my time, actually, to move the college here. But I did join for that project as vice principal. Then I saw that college move through, became deputy, and then became principal, as you say, about 11 years ago. So quite a journey, really.
It's a sort of a slightly cliched question, but it must have changed the sort of the provision maybe and what you've needed to supply your students into must have changed quite a lot.
Yeah, about 12 years ago, just before I became principal, we held an industrial summit, actually, and we asked everybody what we should do. And that's where our STEM strategy came from. So science, technology, engineering and maths came from that industrial summit about 12 years ago. We invested about £20 million at the time in various aspects of that STEM strategy. We've invested another 20 million since. But the reason for saying that is it's not just sort of money in, it's making a difference in the courses that students choose. And I think that's why we've won this Careers Beacon Award, because we really link very carefully between the courses we offer and the jobs that are out there locally and nationally and internationally, but particularly locally. So, for example, 10 years ago, about a quarter of our students were studying skills priority courses, and now it's nearly 3/4 of our students that are choosing to study skills. So that's the difference that we've made in terms of the courses that people are choosing to study, because we're changing what we offer in response to what's going on locally.
Just give me a little bit of insight, because I've always been passionate about this skills pipeline. That the conversation sort of starts in houses amongst families about what you might be doing, what the possibilities are. But I've always thought the trickiest thing is the timing, in that when your students finish their courses, what jobs are available then? So that's because I mean it's a fast changing region, but you've got to really be on your toes for that.
Yeah, there's a timing issue, because if you train too early, people need a job. Particularly adults actually who are retraining, but also young people, when they finished, whether it's school, college or university, if they're at the point they want to work, you can't train them in advance of the jobs being here, because they'll just do something else. So that's one thing. But obviously if you're too late, then there's big skill shortages there as well. So you've got to get that timing right. But I would say there's an even bigger barrier, and that's just about employers taking on people without experience, because training is only one part of what employers look for, and qualification is only one part. The other part is experience, and the vast majority of job adverts that you see want experience. And I would say, without a doubt, that's our number one challenge. And it's a challenge for all of us. It's a challenge for employers. It's a challenge for education, is how do we give our students experience, and how do they get that first thing on their CV that helps them get that job? Because employers inevitably want somebody more experienced in more often than not.
And is there a simple answer to that? What
There's,
you do?
there's lots of ways, there's lots of things that are available. Work experience is one way, but that takes time. Employers still need to mentor and supervise people in the workplace. Interns, apprenticeships, I'm a massive advocate for apprenticeships. Huge advocate. I think they're a great way of accepting that people are inexperienced and helping support them to get the experience. But honestly, Mike, there's just not enough apprenticeship vacancies out there. They've halved in the last 7 years across the Tees Valley. There used to be 10,000 vacancies every year for apprentices, and now there's only 5,000 vacancies every year. So I think we need more government policies to incentivise employers to create those vacancies for our young people.
Is it the levy that's caused that sort of problems? Is that sort of distorted what people thought it was all about?
Yeah, it's complicated. I don't want to get too technical on skills policy, but the levy reforms have change the mix and balance of what apprenticeships are available and employers' behaviour and what they're prepared to invest in. So 2 things have happened as a result of those reforms. And the upshot is there are now more apprenticeship vacancies in the southeast, and there's more for degree level apprenticeships than there are in the northeast, and there are for young people. And we in the northeast of England used to have lots of apprenticeships for young people and for people who left school with lower qualifications as really, really good entry jobs. And a lot of chief execs in Teesside started off as apprentices. So this has been a tried and tested route where, and yeah, it is a shame to me, certainly, and certainly for our students, that there are fewer vacancies around now. So we do put a lot of effort into things like this to raise awareness of that. We're an employer as well, so that's our duty to create those vacancies. But yeah, that's the one thing that I think would give our students the best possible chance of getting that first job after education, is getting more vacancies that didn't require experience.
Yeah, okay. I'm interested, take me back to when you were a student, Zoe. What sort of, were you the sort of the straight A's girl back then?
I'm an interesting case study, a little bit different really, because I was the kind of straight A student, so I think there was an expectation I would go to university, but I started my A-levels locally, and honestly, I had an appetite to work very young, and my brother, actually, who's 6 years older than me, had just got his degree in microbiology and didn't want to do anything to do with microbiology. And I looked at him and thought, why am I going to embark on 6 years of study and potentially not use the thing that I've studied for? So I was quite brave. I dropped out of my A-levels. I got a job in a bank. I came to Middlesbrough College on a night class, and I effectively studied for 6 years on an evening. It wasn't called an apprenticeship, but it's very similar to an apprenticeship, until I became a qualified accountant and had a master's degree, but had all that work experience behind me as well. So I really do truly understand the benefit of working and studying at the same time. And we seem to do less of it in this country now than we've ever done. And I really genuinely think it's a powerful way. It's a powerful way to learn and get experience.
What about your 2 daughters, yeah?
Yeah.
What are your sort of hopes and ambitions, and what are they thinking at the moment? Do they have a clear-cut path of what they fancy doing?
They really don't. I've got a 17-year-old who's doing A-levels, who flips between medicine, police, RAF, business economics, international trade, very, very broad selection of things that she's weighing up, really, really diverse. And so she's strong-minded, so all I can do is guide, and she will find whichever one suits her, and she's in that process at the moment. My younger daughter really doesn't know what she wants to do. Probably something, again, health, public services, police, fires, sort of industries. I don't know, something along those lines. But yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy to,
It opens up an interesting thing that you have to let the young people make up their own minds. You can obviously guide them and really hope they go a certain, that's not only parents, but that's sort of college staff as well. You've got to sort of hope, I could really see you doing this and that, but it has to be within them to really, to find that place that's important for them.
Yeah, otherwise they'll drop out.
Yeah.
I went on a visit to Norway recently to look at their vocational education system, and they trialled a planned-based system. So they trialled an objective analysis of the jobs in Oslo, and they capped the number of people who could go on various courses based on what they worked out were the areas they needed more people trained. And it really didn't work, because what they found was people weren't getting onto the courses they wanted to get on. They were being forced to go onto the courses that maybe they should be going on, but they then dropped out. So it's really interesting, the psychology of getting the balance right between what people want to do and perhaps what gives them the best chance of having good employment. So what we try and do here is we try and give good advice and invest in the right things to make it more appealing for students to study in the areas where statistically they've got a better chance of employment, which is a slightly different way of achieving the same aim.
And as well as having obviously your goal is to help the students leave the college and go into work and build a career and that sort of thing. Are you also very conscious of what sort of a person you're helping to build? Is that it's a more holistic idea that you want them to be the right sort of people and to have the right approaches to life generally?
I think whenever we talk to employers, and there's a local skills improvement plan that the Chamber of Commerce has just published, which had a massive consultation with employers, the number one thing that comes back isn't the qualification or the content actually of the qualification. It's personal attributes, soft skills, communication. We've been hearing that for years, if not decades. So we do try and put as much as possible around our student tutorial program, around the enrichment, lots of trips and visits that bring things to life. If you can present to the class how you develop confidence. In engineering subjects, developing more competency-based training as well as the knowledge-based training. So we do as much of that as possible. That was one of the areas that we got outstanding on Ofsted, actually, was that personal development of the student, where we do try and go above and beyond, because that's the thing that will get them the job. Those personal, interpersonal, independent thinking, critical thinking, problem solving, that's the thing that will make the difference.
Yeah, I know when I used to do a lot of interviews throughout my career, and you can see the qualifications are therefore you know that a certain standard and what they've got through, they've studied, they've applied themselves, but you really just want to sit in front of them and ask them questions and see how they react, what sort of comes along. And you know, I find certainly within 5 or 10 minutes of talking to someone, I know what sort of person I think they are, and that makes such a difference.
Yeah, it absolutely does. It does, and it's some of that comes with years, doesn't it, and experience as well. And I think sometimes we forget that. I remember the first time I stood up and spoke in front of any group. I was 28 years old, and it was only a group of 20 or 30 people, and I physically shook, and I physically could feel myself sweating and with nervous, anxiety, really. And I'm, obviously now more experienced at that, and it looks very natural, as if it's an innate skill, and it isn't. It's like anything, it develops over time. You have to push yourself outside your comfort zone, and young people and students are no different. They're all capable, wonderful, lots of potential, but they need those experiences to develop into them.
Yeah. Talking of comfort zones, that's I'm going to make a clumsy journalistic segue then into CBEs. Now, how on earth did you feel about that? That's just, I think everyone across the business community was just so pleased for you. We thought, thank God, at last, this just feels so right. But what about you? How did you react to it?
Well, when I first opened the letter, which was just before Christmas, I had to read it about 10 times, to be honest. I'll be honest, I had to Google what a CBE was and what it meant. And obviously, you hear of them, but I really didn't understand it. So I was quite taken aback, to be honest. And I'm still not awfully sure who nominated or how it came about. But it was, I was, just quite shocked and taken aback and humbled and pleased and proud and all of those mixtures of emotions and things that happen. But what a day. It was lovely. It was lovely to go to Windsor and have my mum there as well.
Yeah, so that's
managed to get an extra ticket for her. Somebody in the business community said to me, make sure you ask for extra tickets. They do give them out.
Right.
And so I did. It says you could take 3, and I asked for my husband, my kids, and my mum, and they all got to come, and it was lovely. My dad is not well enough, but he was there on WhatsApp, and it was lovely. It was really nice. Yeah, very, very lovely day.
Because I think the default for some people who receive such a high honour is to say it's a team thing. But I always say, somebody's chosen you in particular. And it's a Zoe thing as well as just as a college thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, look, this place is amazing. You don't get, the Ofsted result we've just got. It's not me. We've got 1,000 staff here. So, without a doubt, there's always that. But as I say, I don't really know how you get these things, but I'm very, very pleased with it. I understand. I do quite a lot of work lobbying now nationally. So I sit on quite a lot of national skills forums because I think, as I was trying to sort of clumsily say at the start, there are some system barriers. I think it can be true that colleges can be doing the right thing very well and there's still skill shortages. So sometimes there's something in the middle that isn't right. And I think we focus too much on either colleges aren't doing the right thing or employers aren't, taking on. There's a whole set of incentives that government can do. And that's where I spend quite a bit of my time now, is trying to influence those things that I personally think, like expanding apprenticeships, for example, can be quite transformational in alleviating skill shortages for business.
And what's your general opinion of how does the government listen to that sort of thing? Are you sort of just doing your bit, or are they reacting, do you think?
It's really interesting. Colleges are in a little bit of a strange situation. And again, there's lots of research about this. Schools are vote winners, aren't they? You've got 10 years of young children with very active, interested parents.
Yeah.
So the government always takes a lot of cognizance as to school education. Universities, very influential, lots of research, very important to the national economy as well. So lots of influence around the House of Lords and politics, quite rightly. So government listens to universities for all of those reasons. Colleges are this little 2 or 3 years in the middle that are not a vote winner and don't have a lot of influence. And we're often, people talk about the value of colleges, but not in a way that we can get in the right circles. So that's what the sector's really trying to do at the moment, is make sure that we're around the right tables to be getting the right views of technical and vocational education into the right rooms of decision makers. And in answer to your question, colleges moved from the Department of Business it used to be BIS, didn't it? Business Innovation and Skills, I think years ago. It's BAIS now. And we've moved into the Department for Education. Okay. And so I would say it's taken probably 5 years for the Department for Education to really understand colleges and what apprenticeships are and higher technical qualifications and vocational education. So I think we're working with now a government, Department for Education and policymakers who understand colleges more than ever. Okay. So it gives me more hope that we can start to get these policy levers right for the future.
And I suppose more successfully, things like the Ofsted, the sort of slightly louder your voice gets. Yeah. Because you're that college that's doing things in a certain sort of way.
Yeah. And we're a big college, we're by far the biggest in the Tees Valley, more than double sort of the next college group size, and one of the biggest in the Northeast, the second biggest. So it's nice to be able to try and influence those things that we think will make a difference. Yeah.
Interesting what you said a bit earlier about the sort of the challenges of apprenticeships and the numbers there. I think there's a perception that we're in a sort of a golden spot at the moment in the Northeast, with so much happening in businesses and investments and all that sort of thing. You're still hopeful, though, about the way the region's going? Does it still inspire you as a place, or do you see too many challenges at the moment?
We know the history, we know the industrial legacy, we know the globalization, automation, we know we've had probably 30 years of low job density and low wage economy. If the ONS stats that have come out for last year continue, we need to be very optimistic, because the jobs growth that we're seeing has never been like that for 30 years locally. So, you know, if that continues on the same trajectory, we will need to change a lot of things. We'll need to persuade our graduates to stay here and not leave. You know, I've been really pleased. We're a large employer. We employ 1,000 staff. And more when I'm inducting new staff, I'm hearing people moving back to the area. So I am quite optimistic that things are changing, that the voice of Tees Valley is permeating out there and that things are changing. I think Darlington Economic Campus, without a shadow of a doubt, is bringing real high value jobs. Tees Works, we're seeing it.
Yeah.
We're working with Sea Wind, we're working with BP, we're working with Anglo American, you know, so we know those jobs are there. We're recruiting and doing adult training for these companies. So long may it continue, and let's hope we get I would say after a one year trajectory is great, but you really need 2 to 3 years before you're sure that it's sustainable. So all the signs are that it is.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's two sides. There's a potential long-term, I mean, generational shift, but I also think there's, perhaps you might agree or not, that it's still a relatively small window in which we've got to be really spot on with the things we supply, because over the next 3, 4, 5 years, so many projects are going to be kicking in and wanting these people, wanting the new staff and the skills.
Yeah.
We've got to hit that rhythm just spot on, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, we work with 2,000 employers. So we often talk about inward investors because they're important to the area, because they're a true addition to our jobs market. But we mustn't forget our existing employers, and they're quite nervous actually about these inward investors. The employers we work with and supply engineering apprenticeships to are quite worried. So they're worried that somebody will pay a little bit more and they'll lose their staff. And so it's as important to us that we serve our current employer base and widen that pipeline as it is that we support those inward investors. And let's not forget as well, the biggest employer in Teesside is health by some margin.
Sure.
So, you know, health and care jobs, social care, they are, you know, they're the biggest volume employers. So we've just invested in a health innovation ward. It's fantastic. You must come down.
All right.
It puts smells in the room.
Oh,
so
wow.
I won't tell you what smells, but there's positive, the smells of a hospital, or the smells of a maternity ward, or the smells of somebody who's just, you know, thrown up, and other smells. But it's really an immersive suite to help people who maybe want to be a paramedic, you know, really get a feel for the smells, the visuals of what you will encounter, to help make sure it's right for you, make sure you're going into the right career. So there's lots of innovation going on at the moment, but yeah, health's our biggest employer locally. Lots going on.
As you were saying earlier on, that immersive idea is all about that key thing about they've got to get hands-on skills, as well as just sitting in the classroom, of course, and absorbing what's happening. Get them with their hands on, get them to feel what it's like, so that, again, they're just so fit and ready to go out there and start working.
Yeah. If an employer takes them on without experience, and that's the big thing. We have some really talented young people who an employer will not even look at because on their CV, they don't have that experience of that particular skill. So we have to break that cycle. That's the hardest thing for us to get for our young people. Yeah.
There's still work to be done, but I always feel that there's still, maybe because so much is happening at the moment, there is this big feeling of collaboration, that we do want to try and work together, and I want to help them and they want to help me. So what can I do back there? And if we get that all right, Zoe, I think we're in such a strong position, aren't we?
Yeah, I think so. And I, honestly, the environment, I meet with other college principals now, probably twice a month. And that's unheard of, really, the amount of collaboration that's going on between colleges. And the environment's right for that now. So I think we've got, and it's not usual either. In a lot of areas, colleges are competitive with each other. I think we're more collaborative locally than I think we've ever been, and that I've certainly seen in other areas. So we've got the ingredients, definitely.
Yeah, I think it's an exciting time for everybody. We keep our eye on the targets.
Yeah.
Look after our young people.
Yeah.
And
give them a chance.
Give them the chance.
Chance for that first job. Yeah. 100%.
Listen, that's been really interesting, Zoe. That's I find half an hour flies by when we're in a group, because there's so much we can talk about. so much more. But thank you very much, Zoe. That is the end of this Business IQ Business Brew podcast. We'll be back again soon. Thanks very much for your time, Zoe. Really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Thanks. Lovely to see you, Mike. All the best. Bye-bye.